As far as species are concerned, we have evidence of pipistrelle bat, dragonfly, cinnabar moth, rabbit in many forms, deer, fox, hedgehog, owl, kestrel, sparrowhawk, grass snake and adder have also been sighted, especially through the summer months, especially so when the CHP building went up and the nests were disturbed. Our gardens are all the richer for visiting bird species which benefit from the vital food source from this land throughout the year. With expansion of the business park in 2013 and the recent construction of the day nursery on land which we believe to be protected as the green buffer zone, we are concerned that the delicate ecosystem here is under enough threat already. It should therefore be retained not only as public open space, but actively protected, enriched with native woodland planting as well, to encourage public access and to fulfill its designated role. This land also plays a vital role in the setting of Springfield Lyons Bronze Age enclosure. Should the open space be sacrificed for development, this heritage site would essentially be boxed in and its historical setting hugely diminished within its built environment. Our hope is that in protecting this natural green space and championing it as public open space, the community will be further encouraged to spend time in the wild outdoors, to reconnect with nature and to share our natural heritage. In the past 10 years, increased commercial development has encroached upon our space. Natural habitats have been severely diminished. And whilst business units remain unoccupied on Dukes Park Industrial Estate, the revelation that this established mix of scrub and grassland, wetland and hedgerow might be lost to development, possibly in breach of planning policy, and I will come on to that, has come as a shock to many residents. Since achieving city status in 2012, Chelmsford's urban growth has been intensive. With rapidly increasing development demands, considerable pressure is being placed on our city's remaining wildlife and wild spaces. But wildlife areas are also increasingly important for our well-being and mental health, facilitating leisure time activities for many people who wish to escape the stress of living in these urban areas. A balance is key. Wild spaces can exist in tandem with public access through the use of subtle zoning areas, protected with a mixture of wire fencing and hedgerow boundaries to prevent access by the public and allow transit of wildlife, without compromising the natural element of green space. This balance is particularly important on the land in question. It is a vital existing habitat and mitigation area for great crested newt, also adder and bat populations, along with nesting birds residing in drifts of hedgerow and bramble on the site from April to October, who are reliant on the scrub and grassland area of the development, yellow-edged development site, for their winter food supply and shelter from predators. No matter how well the remaining land is managed, loss of so much open space to development, which will be a quarter of the land given the totals of the nursery and the proposed development site, will diminish habitat and feeding areas, squeezing the remaining wildlife still further, undermining biodiversity and causing irreparable damage. Essex Wildlife Trust engages with the planning system to try to ensure that any development does not harm the natural environment, and scrutinises and comments both on strategic planning policy and, as in this case, individual planning proposals. And they are also working with the planning system to ensure Essex is able to adapt to the impacts of climate change through, for example, protection and enhancement of habitat networks with the Living Landscape scheme in the local emerging plan. This brings me on to community involvement. In June 2017, following refusal of the care home planning application, residents of Chelmer Village who had followed and participated in the planning process, as well as interested parties who had seen reports online, came together to discuss a way forward for the land in question. We determined that the land is currently regarded as open space to be classified as accessible natural green space in the forthcoming local plan, which takes us to 2036. That the adjacent nursery to the west and the business park units to the north have begun to seriously encroach upon and diminish the open nature of the site and its function as a visual buffer, as outlined in the original design brief for the business park, and was stated as one reason for dismissal of an appeal by Lucas plc in 2007 in the Planning Inspectorate's report. We determined that the use of this area for recreation has been silently discouraged and biodiversity undermined by a lack of maintenance with overgrown scrub, bramble and nettle. Informal litter picks and low-level pruning back of pathways in summer by residents help to keep the area monitored and accessible. We often remove broken glass, bottles that may pose a fire risk. The community is engaged in this land, and yes, it is engaged in the area of scrub close to the road because this is where many grassland fires can start. We are often patrolling and trying to remove what we can get to in the ditches that's been thrown from cars. We also regard that people had viewed the sold sign, erected rather precipitously perhaps in 2016, in advance of any planning permission being granted, as a no entry, despite the fact that the land was still public open space. They simply respected the cordon in place around the area and thought it best to stay away, obviously unwilling to trespass. However, this caution positively enhanced the wildlife habitat for a diverse range of species, providing undisturbed shelter and sanctuary for reptiles and nesting birds for 2 summers. More bird types in greater numbers are now evident both in this habitat and in our garden and local gardens. Nature will always find a way. The winter months have seen a seasonal dieback of the grass and scrubland, leading to a greater use by the public, especially dog walkers who have the opportunity to run their dogs off the lead here. The wildness of the whole area is unique in a semi-urban setting, and it's truly amazing that so many microhabitats can exist in such a small area, from grass and scrub through marshy wetland zones to a strip of mature woodland. We agreed that future management of a natural green space or wild park must take into account this diversity and reflect the importance of its historical elements to visitors, namely the notable Bronze Age and Saxon remains and the agricultural or dairy farming heritage. Our alternative proposal is for a community wild park embracing the whole space with an initial 10-year management plan. In contrast to contracting an external management team on a short-term basis, our priority here is to encourage greater community involvement from the outset, engaging volunteers of all ages, school children, scouts and guides, Good Gym members, who are a fitness club who specialise in conservation management and voluntary work, parents and pensioners, people who already use and appreciate this space and will encourage new visitors. We aim to work in partnership with Springfield Parish and Chelmsford City Councils with specialist advice and support from environmental charities and organisations such as Essex Wildlife Trust and the Woodland Trust's Trees for All campaign. We will draw on support and advice from the Parish Council and Chelmsford City Council's Sustainable Development Team. Also, Chancellor Park and Barnes Farm Junior Schools, in consultation with residents of Chelmer Village, Cooton Grove and Chancellor Park, even a local osteopath keen to see active lifestyles championed through time spent outdoors close to nature. Overarching management principles will be shared with other local residents who can also volunteer and or join a Friends of Springfield Lyons group. Our aims and objectives will then be further refined and taken to consultation with locals in tandem with the establishment of Friends of Springfield Lyons Wild Park. Over 10 years, we would aim to minimise landscape impact to ensure the natural appearance of a wild park is honoured, soften the hard edges of dominant commercial buildings already existing by a mixed hedgerow planting scheme, hawthorn, hazel, holly, and replace the outer boundary, currently concrete post wire fencing, with a more appropriate woven willow or living fence similar to those introduced along Essex Regiment Way for the Bewley Park development. We'd manage clumps of dense bramble by cutting them back in early February ahead of nesting season. We take a full account of all aspects of the ecology of the whole site, embracing the unique marshy Bronze Age enclosure and its ponds, areas of copse, as well as mixed scrub and grassland, and the more established woodland to the north of the site, including the isolated ash and veteran oak. We would ensure that all the key habitats and species of importance are conserved, including regular monitoring of wildlife corridors in association with the Wildlife Trust's living landscapes in the Springfield Lyons enclosure and wildlife area, undermining its open setting as a dynamic landscape, threatening existing bird, mammal, amphibian, reptile and insect populations, and reducing the area of land available for amenity use for the growing population. This is contrary to Policy DC39 to protect and enhance open space. We believe that provision of an equivalent quality space elsewhere is impossible. This is not a brownfield site of rubble and dereliction. This is green, undeveloped land, perfectly able to sustain itself. The beauty of this space is that it already contains all the elements necessary, both for sustainability of wildlife habitat and provision of recreational facilities in line with Policy CP12 to maintain and enhance recreational facilities. This is a rare opportunity to sustain and enhance a public open space in an increasingly urban environment and should be embraced. Valued as a visual amenity and green buffer between commercial and residential zones, valuable as wildlife habitat, and with the potential to engage the local community in a shared enterprise, this unique and natural space deserves to be protected and championed. In full support of the City Council's decision, and on behalf of many local residents, I respectfully request that the appeal be dismissed. Thank you.